Welcome to the Filmed Live Musicals podcast, a podcast about stage musicals that have been legally filmed and publicly distributed. The Filmed Live Musicals website contains information on nearly 200 musicals that have been captured live. Check it out at filmedlivemusicals.com. And now, on with the show. Welcome to episode 33 of the Filmed Live Musicals podcast. I'm your host, Luisa Lyons, and my guest today is actress, singer, writer, content creator, and puppeteer Laura K. Clark. A graduate of the Actors Studio Drama School, Laura is the co-founder of Party Claw Productions, an independent, multidisciplinary media production company specializing in experimental, female-driven work that challenges industry standards. She debuted her one-woman show, I Kissed Your Boyfriend, Another Feminist Rant, at the United Solo Theatre Festival, and during the pandemic, created Petunia's Playhouse, a family-friendly puppet series all about self-care. The series won an award of merit from the Best Shorts competition, an honorable mention from the Independent Short Awards, and Best Web Series at the New York City International Reel Film Festival. Petunia's Playhouse was adapted for the stage and performed at the New Ohio Theatre in December 2021 and will be available to stream on demand from January 17 until February 8th. Welcome, Laura.
Hi.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast today. I'm so excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So to start us off with, what made you fall in love with musical theater?
Oh my gosh. So when I was a kid, probably around like 7 or 8, we used to vacation every summer at this resort in Canada. And they would do this, like, for whatever reason, like every year they would do this performance of Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dream Coat. But it was like, they definitely didn't have enough people. And it was like, they had like a boombox and like, it was very like community theater. There were like definitely not 12 brothers. There were like 7 and like 3 of them were girls. But we would watch that musical every year that we went there. And I was like obsessed with it. So my dad like had the record of the soundtrack and I would listen to it at home. And then he bought me the CD and the VHS with like Donny Osmond. So yeah. And then from there, like just my family, I was lucky that like my mom and dad also really like love musicals. So, you know, any chance we got to go see a musical or like watch a musical like Sound of Music or West Side Story, like they were really good about showing us those. But it was really that like really goofy Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dream Coat that like really mesmerized me. And I was like, this is it. This is awesome.
What was the Canada connection? How did you end up at this place in Canada every year?
My mom had like a cousin that lived in Canada. So we would go every summer and like drive up to like this resort. And on the way, we would like stop and see her cousin. And like, so she had some family there. So we'd stop and see her family and then go to this place. It was called Cleveland's House. And it was just like on a lake and you would go and you could like water ski and do like play tennis and go swimming and stuff. It was very lovely, but yeah, very strange that they just insisted on having this ragtag production of
I love that it was the same production every year too.
I know. And like they were trying so hard, but they like definitely didn't have enough people to do that very large musical. But
was it
they were like, we're doing it anyway.
Was it something that like guests could participate in?
No, it was like, I don't know if it was like a touring company that would come do it or, which I think it was. Like, I want to say it was like a local theater that would come and like perform at the resort. But it was just absolutely, I was so sucked into it and just loved it so much. And I think I listened to the soundtrack so much that my sister wanted to like kill me because she was like, if I have to hear Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dream Coat one more time, I'm going to murder somebody. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. This is life. This is music. You know?
I have to say that Donny Osmond Joseph is one of my guilty pleasures. It is brilliantly done.
It's so good. His wig, like, oh my gosh.
The loincloth, excuse me.
It's just, yeah, it's incredible. Like,
I remember being very moved as a child about the slaves wearing blue Nike. I thought that was like a really amazing piece of social commentary. It's very clever.
Yes. I force people to watch that when they're like, oh, I've never seen that musical. I'm like, do I have a treat for you? And most people are like, what am I watching? And I'm like, you are watching a masterpiece.
Yes. And I thank you for your service in sharing that with people.
Yeah, it's my duty to really. I had the VHS and everything, and like, oh my gosh.
Brilliant. Amazing, one might say.
Yeah, incredible.
So you grew up watching this production over and over again in Canada of Joseph. What led you, did you study musical theater?
So I didn't study musical theater. So I was always like into singing and stuff. Like I sang in the choir in high school and middle school and all of that fun stuff. But when I got to college, I was a theater major, but it was a liberal arts school. So there was no like, you couldn't really like concentrate in anything. You could just major in theater. So you just did a little of everything, which was great. I think that was a really good way to really figure out what I wanted to do. Because I had to do a little of everything. And then when I made the decision to get an MFA, I decided to study acting rather than musical theater because I felt like just like the nature of musical theater programs they're very intense. And for me, they felt a little limiting in terms of what I could learn or what I could experience. And so I thought, like, why don't I just get a really strong foundation in acting and like movement and all of these different techniques, and then just sort of study singing on the side and then sort of marry those two things on my own, which is what I ended up doing. And I think that's kind of worked for me. I know musical theater programs really benefit other people, but for me, I was like, you know what? I'm not sure if that's the route I want to go or if that's the environment where I would have really thrived. So I just decided to kind of Frankenstein my own education, which I think I'm ultimately glad I did it that way.
And in your, like with Petunia's Playhouse being about self-care, I think that is a very big step of self-care that you took in making that decision.
For sure. Yeah. I don't think when I moved to New York, I don't think I was like ready to handle an extremely competitive, intense like musical theater program. I don't think I would have survived it. I think I just would have been like, I'm going back to Ohio, you know, like, yeah. So I'm glad that I went a bit of a different route with that.
And it allows you to bring other skill sets in. Like, where did the puppetry come in?
So puppetry, like, has always been sort of this interest of mine, just having grown up watching the Muppets and Jim Henson stuff. And just, you know, we all, like, people our age grew up in this really lovely time of puppetry. And it was kind of everywhere, which was amazing. And so I just always found it so incredible. And it was always something that fascinated me. And like, I always used to joke like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to like quit my job and become a Muppet. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, I kind of want to do that for real. So I had always been like kind of on the lookout for classes and opportunities to learn puppetry. And then it just sort of worked out that I think in 2017 or 2018, Brooklyn Puppet Conspiracy was offering a class. It was like a 6-week puppetry for TV and film class where you learned, Muppet style puppetry. And I took it and I just absolutely loved it. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So I just kept practicing and was so jazzed that I could learn. And then, thought, what a great skill to have and what a fun thing to know, especially because it's just such a cool thing and such an interesting storytelling device. And I just love puppets. They're just so amazing.
What is it that draws you to puppetry? What when you left that course feeling so inspired and so excited, what is it about the puppetry that makes you get excited?
I think that puppets are they're just so magical, right? They're just like these objects that you get to bring to life, and they're so expressive and special, and it's like bringing a cartoon character to life, right? Like right in front of your eyes. And I mean, I think about, the Disney Broadway shows, right? Like what makes those shows so special. And I think about the Olaf puppet or, the Lion King and all of those puppets. And I think it's such a great way to breathe life into these fantastical characters. And as an actor and performer, I think it's such a great way to perform and create a character and have fun without worrying at all about myself or it's completely the ego is completely out of it. I'm you're not even going to see me. I don't know. I could look like shit and I could be behind a wall. And I just get to create this character and give a voice and movement to this thing that everyone's going to watch. And I think that's just so cool.
I wish listeners could see your face right now because Laura is just grinning from ear to ear. I can see the joy radiating from you.
I just love puppets.
And I'm curious if the voices that you create for your puppets, was voice work something that you did through your acting training and then applied to the puppetry, or was it something that you learned through the puppetry?
I would say a little of both. In grad school, we did extensive voice work and I've always been a singer, but I've also just always been a weirdo. And I think that has really helped me because I always just have talked in these weirdo voices and done weird stuff with my voice. And so it just makes sense to do puppetry for me because I'm finally a channel for all of these demonic little strange voices that I do just naturally in my life. And I think I'm just a goofy person, so it just kind of was this beautiful marriage of my serious actor training and then just all of these idiotic things that I do, just as a human being,
All your playfulness.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me, I read about Robin Williams as a child was an only child. And so he would line up all his toys and give his toys different voices. And that was his
Aww.
voice training. And he talked about how, being able to bring those characters to life as a grown-up and through acting, that it was just playing. It was just being back in his room as a kid and creating people.
Yeah, I think it's impossible. If you have a puppet in your hand, you have to play. It's impossible not to. You just have this thing that's so fun. And it's how can you not play? How can you not have fun? When you're holding this puppet, So I think it's just such a joy to do.
So how did Petunia come into your life? I read that you noticed Petunia sitting on your shelf during lockdown.
Yeah. So the web series was born because I was, furloughed from work at the beginning of the pandemic. Oh gosh. In, spring 2020, which seems forever ago. but also feels like yesterday. And, you know, I was just so worried. I was like, what am I going to do with all of my time? How am I going to take care of myself? How am I going to stay mentally healthy? And I was also worried about my friends who are all like, what do we do? How do we get through this? And, you know, I had taken that puppetry class and I had this puppet and I was like, you know, like, what if I just like created something that taught very simple self-care strategies that literally anyone could do in their home during lockdown. And that was like the initial idea, because I think sometimes like self-care and mental health can seem very like inaccessible, or it seems very unattainable, or it seems very hard to get started. And so I was like, what if we just simplify and give people like some very easy things, small things that they could do every day that could start to help them create, you know, a self-care routine that could then improve their mental health during this time where everyone's lives are literally turned upside down. And I think that, you know, the pandemic really gave everyone an opportunity to start re-examining their mental health. And so it was an opportune time to really start creating content that was focused on mental health. And I think people were ready to receive it. They were like, yes, I need a puppet to tell me what to do. You know what I mean? And I chose to like channel it through, you know, this positive little puppet because, you know, who doesn't want like a cute little furry thing giving you some positivity, and like, you know, adults, kids, anyone. And so that's kind of where I started. And I was like, you know what, let's just do it. I have all of this time. I was literally doing nothing. And so I just was able to channel my time and energy into creating, you know, the web series. And it turned out to be really sort of amazing and kind of took off in its own way. And I was really happy that I decided to do it.
Can you talk about, well, first of all, for people who haven't seen Petunia yet, could you give us a quick description of what Petunia looks like?
Yeah, so Petunia's had a makeover since her original conception. But Petunia now, she is a adorable, hot pink furry puppet with blue hair and giant eyes and a big smile. And we call her Ariana Grande ponytail, but she has like this like beautiful ponytail. And she just, every time I look at her, I just get a rush of serotonin. She just is the happiest, cutest looking thing you've ever seen. So, especially in like the theatrical show, she is just, the minute she pops up, it's just like your heart melts. Like she's just the cutest thing you've ever seen. So yeah, she's just adorable.
I love the power of her over you too.
I know. I like look at her. She's like my child. We call her my, like, the joke in the show, like amongst the, you know, production team was she was my toddler, you know, because she's like kind of toddler size. And we would kind of carry her around like a baby, you know, she was her own entity. I was like, where's my child, my Petunia?
Your inner and outer child.
Yeah, very true, very true. But yeah, she's quite adorable.
And that she is. She does make you smile and feel joy. Can you talk us through the process? Like, you're in quarantine. Did you live alone at this point?
I did, yeah. So I was completely isolated. It was just me and my cat. You know, I struggle with mental illness, so I was like very nervous about being isolated for a very long period of time, and especially without a purpose, because there was no work, there were no auditions, there was nothing. Like, there was literally nothing. And I was like, I can't just sit here every day and watch Netflix. And I think, I just needed to do something. So I, started pouring all of my energy into this, and I found so much like purpose and relief and joy in creating the series, because it gave me something to do. It gave me something to work on. It gave me a sense of accomplishment. And, at the end of the day, I felt good about like how I was spending my time. And I think it kept me healthy. I think it kept me from, kind of succumbing to depression, kind of falling into like a dark place. So not only is the show like helping others, but it really like helped me. And I think that that's what's so great about it, is that, it really truly was like a labor of love. And it just is thrilling that like other people are able to connect with it and like get something from it, because it just was really something that I needed to do to just keep from going absolutely insane. Because otherwise it would just be a very sad, dark time for me, I think.
And how powerful, like, that you, in what you were teaching or what you were sharing through Petunia, was something that helped you and helped you get through it as well. Over what period of time? So you created 5 episodes initially.
Yeah.
Which affirmations, yes, gratitude, intentions, boundaries, and sleep hygiene. And that's, I loved that from the beginning. There you have friends calling in and doing their video letters. Over what period of time were you creating these 5 episodes?
So I want to say I started, I think I started creating everything around the end of March, and then I was premiering episodes by the beginning of May.
Wow.
So I was doing everything fast because I was like, because I just had time, and I think that was one of the blessings of quarantine, was that like infinite creative time, right? Like no work, nothing, nowhere to go, no other obligations. And I was like, when in my life am I ever going to get another time like this? So the content was actually created very quickly. And then, I had so much fun doing it too. And all my friends who were the video callers in the episodes, like, were so happy to volunteer their time and send in videos and just be a part of it. And I was so grateful for that. And then, the rest of it was just, I taught myself how to edit, all of these things, because I literally did everything by myself. So
including the animations?
So much.
Where did the animations come from? Or the drawings?
I created everything. I created everything in Canva.
Yes.
So I created literally everything. So I learned so much, which I think, like, wow, what an amazing thing. Just to be able to learn so much and then be able to like create something. Yeah, I like look back on it and I'm like, wow, I actually did that. That's kind of amazing. But so I did it like all on my own, and like shooting it was wild because, I had my iPhone like filming, and if I needed to like adjust, I'd have to like get up and walk around, and like it was crazy.
How could you see? Because I know when you do puppets for television, that the puppeteers will have a monitor down by them to see what. So how did you have that did you have anything like that?
I did. So it took me a while to figure out, but I finally found like an app that would turn, if you filmed on your iPhone, it would turn your iPad into the monitor. So I had my iPhone as the camera, and then I had my iPad as the monitor. And then I had my laptop with a microphone recording sound on a separate channel. Like, it was wild, but I was so happy I was able to figure it out, because if I didn't have a monitor, like, it would just be so wonky. like she would be looking like at nothing, you know what I mean? But it was so cool to like learn all of that and like figure it out because, you know, that was also like, you know, in like lockdown, where it was like, well, I can't just like go to Best Buy and like get, you know, it was like what I had was what I had. Which was kind of thrilling because then I just had to like roll with it and figure out how to do it with the resources I had in my apartment, which I think led to some great creativity.
And can we talk about how fabulous your aesthetic is, that you had all this cool shit lying around to create this amazing set that's bright and colorful and fun?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank goodness I'm a pack rat. Yeah.
It pays off to hoard.
I just like, I listen, especially like arts and crafts supplies, you know? Yeah, because then it really worked out that I had like enough things to create this little set. So that was all very fortuitous. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I literally just walked around my apartment and I was like, I'll take this and I'll take this and I have that. You know, it was really fun. That was the fun part.
Wow. I'm so in awe. I'm just like remembering back to lockdown and like what a stressful, scary time it was. And to be able, especially on your own, and to be able to use your creativity and I want to say verve to like, you know, raid your closet and create something that not only is gorgeous, but that helps other people too. Like it's amazing.
Thank you.
So fast forward, how did the New Ohio Theater run come about, or the live stage adaptation?
So the live stage adaptation, New Ohio put an ad on Playbill. So backtracking a little bit, last year, I had worked with New Ohio on their children's show. I was an actor in there.
This is A Journey Around My Bedroom?
Yes.
Which I did watch and was delightful.
It was
so clever.
stinking cute.
And so sweet. And so delightful is the absolute word I use for it.
So my Party Claw co-founder, Ashley, was also in that show. So we were very well acquainted with the New Ohio and the folks over there. So they put a posting on Playbill that they were looking for a show to fill their Theater for Young Minds slot this year. And Ashley was sort of like, you know what? Why don't you just like pitch a live version of Petunia? And I was like, you know, I think I would really like to do that. And I would like it to be a musical. And this was in like the beginning of October. So, which is like insane. How quickly this all came together. Like, so I just wrote them an email and I was like, hey, I saw you're posting on Playbill. I would love to pitch this thing to you. And we had a Zoom meeting with them and they were like, yeah, let's do it.
Here's some content I made earlier.
Yeah. And then I was like, great, I have to write a musical. But I was so jazzed because, you know, I was like, yes, now we get to take this character that I've created and this premise and this message and translate it into this brand new format, into this narrative format, make it a musical, like bring in other people. We can now collaborate with other human beings, put it on a stage. This is going to be so great. So we put a posting on Playbill to hire a composer and ended up meeting Billy, who is incredible. And he churned out 6 songs in less than 6 weeks. And they are bops, every single one of them. They are so good. Like, he is so talented. Was absolutely floored. I was like, this is a big ask. I was like, I know. I was like, is it even possible? And he was like, oh yeah. And so absolutely incredible. So,
and this is Billy Recce, who
thing,
wrote the long-running off-Broadway show, a musical about Star Wars, and has collaborated with everybody.
Oh my gosh, yeah. He's like really like an up and comer and he's gonna do big things. Like he's already doing big things, but like he's going far, and I'm really excited to see where he's headed. He just did an industry presentation of his latest musical, Foul Play, which starred Rosé from RuPaul's Drag Race. But he's just so wonderful and so talented, and he just absolutely brought so much life to Petunia's Playhouse, and I was so excited. So I just like cannot wait for people to hear these songs because they are so stinking cute, and they have been stuck in my head for 2 months. So
did he do the music and the lyrics?
Yeah, he did the music and the lyrics, and I wrote the book. Like, it was just, the whole process was so fast. Like, we were like, okay, we have to write a musical, and we have to cast it, and we have to, like, so, but amazingly, we just sort of threw it all together, and everything was falling into place, and, we ended up with this wonderful cast, and this great script, and these wonderful songs and a wonderful creative team. And, the first day of rehearsal, I was just like over the moon. I was like, I can't believe like there are people in this room who are like excited about this musical and are excited about this like thing I made in my apartment and, like believe in this. And that was just absolutely like, I still can't believe it that like people are like genuinely excited about this thing. I'm like, wait, what? It's like so hard to believe still, but I'm just completely honored that all of these people assembled to make this thing happen. And we have absolutely encountered every challenge you can imagine over the past month, but I'm just jazzed that we've made it,
So can you walk us through it a little bit? So October, you put out a call for a composer. You amazingly put this show together in a matter of weeks, it sounds like. And then what happens next?
So then we went into casting, and we got our additional puppeteers and our actors for our human characters, because we have 2 human characters, and then we needed additional puppeteers because Petunia has 2 hands now. So we needed an additional Petunia puppeteer as well as some other puppeteers.
So just quickly, you mentioned that Petunia had a makeover. So it wasn't just her design, like her actual like puppet design changed. So she went from being a rud puppet or a hand puppet.
Yeah. So she went from a because the original Petunia puppet was constructed for TV and film, so she's small, and she was a rod puppet, and so she couldn't hold on to anything, and so we wanted to do a redesign for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, we wanted to do kind of a rebrand as like, this is Petunia, she is ours, she is like, this is like our puppet, this is our brand, sort of. But also we wanted her to be bigger so that she could be on the stage and people could see her. And then we wanted her to have live hands so that she could hold things, she could gesture more freely, she could, just be more alive on stage. So we reached out to the Puppet Kitchen, and Eric Wright, who just did all of the puppets for Little Shop and is actually one of the puppeteers on Little Shop right now. He designed and built Petunia for us. And the other exciting thing that we did was, so in the web series, Pumpkin Duck was just a rubber duck that sat there and squeaked. But now Pumpkin Duck is also a puppet who can move and has a little bit more life. So we are absolutely jazzed about having our pumpkin duck puppet and our new Petunia. So the addition of those, puppets and things, and then obviously there were some more little puppets in the show. We needed more puppeteers. So casting was so fun. I've never been on the other side of a table before. I think I was more nervous than everybody auditioning. I was like behind the table, like, I was like, I'm already cast, baby. I'm already, and our director, Christina Ashby, I've known her for years. We, went to grad school together. She was a year ahead of me, and she was literally the first person I thought of when we decided we were going to do the live show, because she is just such a special director. She's so imaginative, and she's done a lot of TYA stuff, but then also just a lot of devised work. So I thought she would just be so perfect for this. So it was really just like, once we went into casting, it was like we had to assemble our team. It was like, now we've got to get our designer. Now we've got to get our stage managers, and we've got to get our awesome team together so that we can make this happen. And we did that. We got an amazing team of people. And then it was just like, now let's just make it happen, which is, easier said
as we're
than done,
coming
right?
out of a pandemic, and there's a sneaky little variant making its way across the United States.
Oh my God. Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That variant. I hate that variant. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah. So, once we had our team assembled, it was really just like we went into rehearsals. We went into rehearsals on the 29th of November. And we were in rehearsal, and, we were also doing all of the producery stuff on the side. So it was a very busy 3 weeks leading up to like when we initially went into tech.
And were you at that point testing and like we're following COVID protocols in the rehearsal room?
Absolutely. So we modeled our COVID protocols after Broadway. So we were testing, we were wearing masks like almost all the time. Like even when we were singing, like we were really only taking our masks off to like sip water. And we were testing regularly, and we were doing all of that. And I'll tell you, that variant is evil. Because we all got it. Our entire company got it. So literally we had gotten to the day before our final dress, and we were so close, and we had like done everything, and we had like solved every problem and every hurdle. And we were like, okay, we have enough people to do the run. We just have to make it to like opening. It's going to be okay. And then that night I tested positive. So, and this is funny now, like it was not in any way, shape, or form funny at the time. But I'm sitting in the dressing room, and I had like grabbed, cause I had tested that morning, but I was sick, and I had been testing every day, and it kept coming back negative, but I was sick, and I was like, you know what? Something just doesn't feel quite right. I'm going to test again because I'm nervous. I'm coughing. I have cold symptoms. Like, I know I tested negative, and I keep testing negative, but I'm just nervous. So I had an at-home antigen test, from work. So I was sitting in the dressing room and swabbed myself, and it was immediately positive. And I was like, ah. So I go to grab, my co-producer, and I'm like, hey, can you come back here for a second? And So we're sitting back there just like staring at this positive test, and our stage manager had like put on music while we were like finishing up the set and stuff, and she had put on a 2000s emo playlist. So the song that was blasting at the time was Linkin Park's
No.
In the End. As we're staring at this positive COVID test that essentially means we can't do our run. And like just completely heartbroken. Because we were like, well, like, what do we do? And I was like, well, I have to get out of here. Like, I can't, I gotta go. So I like get my stuff and leave. And then the next morning, 4 other people in our company tested positive. So we had to cancel all of our performances, but we were like, we are not giving up. We are determined. We are like, we have worked too hard on this puppet show. So we all quarantined for 10 days and, made sure everyone was healthy. And then we came back and we rehearsed and brushed up, and then we filmed the show. And now we're going to offer it on demand.
And it was live streamed, right? Or was it just filmed?
It was just filmed. We couldn't even do the live streams. So like we had to cancel everything. So we were just like completely depleted. So my like 10 days of quarantine were just like, but we were like, you know what? No, we're still going to find a way. Like, we're still going to bring the show to people, and we're going to do it. And I think, doing it on demand is going to be absolutely wonderful, because this variant is no joke, and people are nervous about coming to the theater. And with kids right now, I'm just like, whatever's going to keep everybody safe is what I want to do. And I think we have the opportunity to reach so many more people now, because literally anyone, anywhere can watch it. So we are absolutely jazzed about it. We're like, you know what? This is all good. Like, only silver linings, But yeah, we were just like, the universe.
The day before, it's like it reminds me that when the Broadway shutdown happened, Six were preparing for their opening night, and they moved the shutdown earlier so that they couldn't open. And it was just like, oh, why? Like all this time, it's so devastating that all this the hours and hours of work that you've all put in to get to that point is just so devastating.
Right. But we, and I keep telling myself that like nothing we did was in vain. And like none of the work that we did was for nothing. Like, because we're going to have this wonderful on-demand experience for everyone. And then when it's a bit safer out there, we're going to do it live. We're going to put it, we're going to put it up in a theater. So, because like we just like plunked the whole set in storage, everything's ready to go again, but I think for our purposes now, I'm so excited to be able to stream it and have people watch it this way. So yeah, and I'm glad that we were all able to like come together and like all be COVID free at the same time and actually like do it, because for a minute there it was like, oh my gosh, we all have COVID. Like, what are we gonna do? And like coming together for that filming day was just absolutely like the most joyous day ever. Like we were just all so happy to be there. So it was such a great
cannot
day.
wait to watch. It's going to be so much fun. What would you say to other creators and other actors or writers who are hesitant about streaming their work?
I would say do it. If you can do it, do it. Because there are so many barriers in terms of accessibility. so many people can't get to a theater to see theater, whether it's because of a geographic limitation or because they don't have the money for a ticket or their schedule doesn't allow it or whatever. I mean, how many of us have friends who are like, oh, I wish I can come see your show, but I have to work. Or, we have family that lives out of state, or, the dates are inconvenient or whatever. And I think that there are so many people who love the arts and who love theater who don't live in New York or don't live in whatever area that you're performing. And I think by streaming your work, you're only providing yourself with more opportunities for people to see what you've done. And yes, it's not the same as performing for an audience. And yes, you don't get that energy or that instant gratification or, that connection that you would with a live audience, but you're giving so many more people an opportunity to experience theater that I think is so valuable. And that's one of the things I love about, Zoom theater or all of the things that are streaming now is that, someone's grandma in Texas can watch it. She would never be able to come to New York, but now she can watch it, which I think is really exciting. Or someone who couldn't afford, a $75 ticket can afford a, $15 streaming ticket. Or, a household can afford a $25 streaming whatever, as opposed to, paying individual tickets for each person. You know what I mean? Like, I just think there's so many positives that come out of streaming in terms of it just provides so many opportunities for people to see what you're doing. I think sometimes people try to like delegitimize streaming and be like, well, it's not like, it's like not as real as like live theater or whatever. But like, that's so not true anymore. Like, I think some of like the best things that I've seen are some of the coolest, most like creative things I've seen are like multimedia or streaming or, I think we're moving into an exciting time that people are starting to think of different ways to present their art.
Oh, very much so.
So why not?
Do you think when you perform it live in the future, when you are able to be back in the theater with an audience, that you will continue like to live stream or film for future on demand?
I would like to, because one of the things that we would really like to do in the future, and something that we're always talking about, is accessibility. And I think that things that I would like to think about in the future that we weren't able to do this run because of, time constraints and budget constraints are things like, closed captioning or ASL interpretation or things like that, that if you had a live stream or you had it on demand, you could add that captioning or you could add, things that make it more accessible to more people. And I think, in our COVID world, I think there's just always going to be like, I'm hoping that, knock on wood, like maybe by the spring or, maybe in the future, it'll be, safer to go to the theater again. But I think there are always going to be people who are going to feel unsafe going to the theater because of whatever health reason they might have. And I think if we're providing them with opportunities to still be able to see shows, I think that really aligns with what we want to do and with what, the missions of Petunia's Playhouse in terms of, making self-care accessible to everyone. So, yeah, I would really like to continue to find ways to either stream or offer on demand, as well as do things live and in person, because, there is something really special about, being in a room and performing and being with an audience that you can't quite capture on a video. But, I think everything has its benefits.
Absolutely. Wow. This has been so much fun. And so inspiring. I love
yay.
hearing this story, even though it has been incredibly challenging. It's a really great story. So I have a series of quick questions that I ask all my guests. You don't need to think about it too much. There are no right or wrong answers. So to start us off, what is your favorite musical?
My favorite musical is obviously Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dream Coat, but my adult favorite musical is Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so different. I love that. And I do have to ask, I saw on your resume that one of your skills is reciting all the colors of the Technicolor Dream Coat in order. I would love to challenge you.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Okay. I have to think of the tune in my head. Okay. It was red and yellow and green and brown and scarlet and black and ochre and peach and ruby and olive and violet and fawn and lilac and gold and chocolate and rose and cream and crimson and silver and gold and azure and lemon and russet and gray and purple and white and green. Oh, I lost it.
Oh,
but I know the last one is blue.
Yes. Snaps to you. Putting you on the spot right there.
Yeah, I maintain that no one in the chorus of that show ever knows the colors, and they all just shout blue at the end. I'm sure some Joseph super fan's gonna listen and be like, "She got none of those right."
So my challenge for you is to work blue into your show. Blue. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite filmed live musical?
Favorite filmed live musical? Oh gosh, the original Broadway Into the Woods with Bernadette Peters and Joanna Gleason.
Yes, gateway drug.
Yes, I've watched it 1,000 times. It's the best. It's my favorite pro shot ever.
The best. I am totally with you on that. So a filmed live musical, it's not exactly stage show and it's not exactly a film. So what should we call it?
Oh gosh. A filmed live musical. It's not a stage show. It's not a film. You have stumped me. Oh my gosh. What have other people said?
This is my favorite question. Oh, people are always tortured.
That is torturing. I feel like I'm going to fail the test.
Not pet peeve. My big mission in life is to come up with the name. What are we going to call this thing?
Right. Because it's kind of a hybrid, but like it's lame to be like hybrid musical.
Hybrid theater. It's like it doesn't convey what it is.
No.
I'll let you mull on it.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on bootlegs?
I think that if we had, on principle, I think it's bad to film shows in that way, but I also understand why people do it because, again, like for some people, that's the only way they're ever going to get to see theater. But I think if we filmed more shows and made them accessible to everyone, we wouldn't have to bootleg.
That perfectly leads to my next question. What do you wish had been filmed?
If I had a pro shot of specifically Michael C. Hall performing in Hedwig and the Angry Inch, I would watch that probably every day of my life. Also, I really want a pro shot of Something Rotten, just because that show tickles me so much and is so fun. And oh gosh, and Deaf West's production of Spring Awakening.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. And with Hedwig, I want a box set where I can
of
watch
everyone
with Lena Hall playing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's my dream for every show, like a show like Hello Dolly, or like where there's been lots of different lead actors.
Iconic leads. Yeah,
yes, I want the box set.
All of them. I wish they would do that for soundtracks too. Like, you know.
Yes, time, money, but we still want it. The audience demands it. What would you like to see filmed in the future?
In the future, I think I would love to see every Broadway show filmed. I know it's a big undertaking, but I think, so many of them film them for the archives that, like, why don't you just make it available to the public? just because, again, like there are kids, I grew up in Ohio and I saw one Broadway show when I was 12 and didn't see another one until I moved to New York when I was in my 20s. So, there are kids that love Broadway that like never get to see it, which is sad. It makes me sad. I think they should film everything.
And for theaters across the country too, like there's so much great stuff happening regionally that, we in New York don't get to see. And then what has been great for me about the pandemic is that I've seen so much content from around the world. Like I've discovered theaters in the Philippines and Japan and Korea and Australia and the UK, like Canada. There's so much happening, and like London and New York are not just the epicenters. But anyway, that's my rant.
Well, and I think that would also benefit theater education so much too, if theater students could actually see theater from around the world, because all of our theater education is very like West centric. And but yeah, that's a whole nother rant for a whole nother podcast.
Find out on episode 2. Finally, where can we find you online?
So you can find me on my website, laurakclark.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at laurak.clark, or you can check out Petunia's website at petuniasplayhouse.net, because someone has petuniasplayhouse.com.
How very dare they?
I know, I checked. It wasn't a strip club, so we're okay.
Oh, the perils of the internet.
I know. You have to just make sure it's not porn,
Yes. And we will have links to all of those in the show notes, and especially to the on-demand stream of Petunia's Playhouse happening from January 17 until February 8th. Don't miss it.
Yay!
Thank you so excited. Much, Laura. Me too.
Thank you. Thank you.
The Filmed Live Musicals podcast is created and edited by your host, Luisa Lyons, with thanks to our wonderful patrons Josh Brandon, Belinda Broido, Elliot Charles, Rachel Esteban, Mercedes Esteban Lyons, Rusty Fox, James T. Lane, Allison Matthews, Al Monaco, David Negrin, Jesse Rabinowitz and Brenda Goodman, David and Catherine Rabinowitz, Joe Tillotson, and Beck Twist for financially supporting the site. Filmed Live Musicals is the most comprehensive list of filmed stage musicals. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you would like early access to this very podcast, early access to site content, the full weekly newsletter with info on upcoming streams, and exclusive access to the streaming calendar, become a Filmed Live Musicals patron for as little as $3 a month. And if you're outside the US, you can sign up in your local currency. Visit www.filmedlivemusicals.com to learn more. If you like what you heard on this episode, please leave a review through the Rate This Podcast link in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks for listening.